Hello, UB fans. This is John McQuinney from UBBullrun.com, and we're going to be trying something a little bit new for football going forward. If you paid attention all over the past few weeks, you've noticed I've done kind of an in-depth recap of sorts on Sundays following the UB games on Saturdays. Uh, but because my time is really limited and I'm not really able to sit down for a couple hours and really flesh out my thoughts on paper, what I thought I would do because it's kind of quick, easy, and I can just sit in front of the camera and talk for about maybe 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see how long this goes. Figured I would do a video recap going forward, and seeing as I'm doing video recaps for the Olympic sports, why not do it for football as well? So basically, the way this will work, I'll sit here, I'll go through offense, defense, special teams, just like in my written articles. Kind of give key highlights, key plays, things that change the game, performances of note, things of that nature. So yeah, I guess we'll jump right into it with the offense, and really the big story where it was them shooting themselves in the foot again. I think this is like the third week in a row that the offense just hasn't. I don't want to say the offense The offense did well. They did well. Joe Licata had a very good game. He threw for over 300 yards, threw a couple of touchdowns. It was a much better game than he had against Florida Atlantic, where he only threw for 105 yards and an interception. He actually matched his passing yards total from the Florida Atlantic game in the first quarter against Nevada. So he came back. He rebounded a bit from the Florida Atlantic game, but there were a couple of critical mistakes. One being an interception. I believe it was late in the first half. Where he overthrew. I believe he was going for Ron Willoughby, overthrew him, and the only player who could get to the ball was the Nevada safety, dove on it in the end zone, and that was that. The second one was an interception late in the game when he overthrew Colin Least on fourth down. Even if it had fallen incomplete, still would have been the game would have been over anyway. So it really the turnovers have really snake bit the UB offense. Before the drive before the interception, Jordan Johnson actually fumbled away the ball. I believe they were on the Nevada 45-yard line. They moved the ball well. Johnson had ran well the entire game. He ended up with 79 yards. I believe note here. 79 yards on 12 carries. 13 carries. Sorry. So 13 attempts for 79 yards. So he averaged over 6 yards a carry. He actually had a career-long rush of 37 yards as well. The run game outside of Johnson, Anthony Taylor averaged 4.3 yards a carry. The interior of the offensive line had fits with number 55, the Nevada defense, the entire game. And they couldn't really get too much of a push, and the run game really suffered. But thanks to Nevada's somewhat suspect secondary, Joe Licata was able to get in somewhat of a rhythm. And Matt Weiser and Ron Willoughby really had big days as well, both having 10 receptions. Weiser with 131 yards, Ron Willoughby with 122 yards. Weiser's performance was the best in terms of yardage by a UB tight end in the FBS era. And it's the first time since the 2013 season when Alex Newts and Fred Lee were still on the team that two receivers went for over 100 yards in the game. So it's not as if the offense was completely awful. It was just a couple of really, really key mistakes that hampered them throughout. And I mentioned number 55 from the Nevada defense. Well, late later on in the game, when UB scored their final touchdown, Coach Leipold went for two to make it a 3-point game. He called it, or excuse me, Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator, called a brilliant trickeration play where Anthony Taylor took the direct snap. It was either Taylor or Johnson. The running back took the direct snap, pitched it over to McGill. McGill basically ran in untouched until he got into the end zone. Then 55 lowered his head and intentionally hit McGill right in the jaw with the crown of his helmet. He wasn't ejected from the game, which not a lot of people were happy about. I know I wasn't. He deliberately lowered the crown of his helmet and hit McGill. It should have been an ejection, but hopefully the NCAA will review it and something will come out of that. Speaking of the 2-point conversion, Leipold and Kotelnicki again, they've kind of shown some gutsy play calling with the 2-point conversion. Then fourth down, they had a fourth down on the Nevada 33-yard line, and they elected to go for it. I believe it was in the third quarter. They elected to go for it. They ended up getting the conversion, which UB actually, well, at the end of the game, the other fourth down conversion did not go, but they've only missed two fourth down conversions this season, both on the final plays of games, one against Penn State, which the pass fell incomplete, and the one yesterday against Nevada where Licata threw the interception. So they have had success on fourth down. Leipold isn't afraid to go for it, which is really nice. But another big problem kind of that I've seen is third down conversions just aren't really there. And through 3 quarters, UB was only 4 of 12 on third down. But then the fourth quarter, when the offense really started to pick things up, they were 3 of 5 on third down. So it's just getting more consistency there. That'll help sustain drives and not put their backs against the wall late in games where they need to have, a game-winning drive or 2 game-winning drives or whatever. And a couple little things to note. True freshman Brandon Smiley collected his first ever reception. Colin Lisa had a beautiful touchdown catch in the later stages of the game. And he also had a great 21-yard reception when Licata was pressured. He stepped up into the pocket, and he knew he was going to get hit. There was a guy right in his face, but he stepped into the hit, delivered the ball, and there were 2 Nevada defensive backs on Lisa. He caught the ball, and he really showed great hands being able to catch the ball and then take the hit. And Licata showed the poise that you want to see out of him. He stepped into the pocket. He knew he was going to get hit, and he still delivered the ball anyway. And that's what you really want to see out of Joe Licata. That's what UB fans have come to expect from him. And there were a couple offensive line penalties that really killed drives. On the fourth down conversion that I mentioned earlier, I believe it was the very next play, John Kling had a 15-yard personal foul that backed the UB offense up, and just like against Penn State when they were in first and long situations, so it was a death knell to any drive that UB had. And then on the UB final drive, it was either Dylan Guy or Bobby Blodgett was called for a false start. Excuse me, not false start, it was a hold. Anyway, there's an offensive line penalty late in the game, and it's just been killer. The penalties, miscommunications, they've just been killer. But I think, as Conrad has said over the past few weeks, that it does take an offense more time to gel and congeal and start functioning right, um, rather than a defense, which a defense, the players can rely on their instincts and athleticism to get to the ball and make plays. Uh, you really need to remember that this is a brand new system that Joe Licata had to learn without any spring ball practice or anything. And really, everyone's still learning the offensive system after being in Jeff Quinn's system, especially some of the seniors being in Quinn systems for 4 years, and then their fifth year having learned something brand new, new terminology, new everything. Just something to keep in mind. Moving on to defense. Last year's defense, big plays, giving up big plays were the norm. This season's defense, giving up big plays, is really becoming the exception rather than the rule, which is nice. They did give up 2 big rush plays early in the first quarter, a 91-yard rush, which was the longest non-touchdown scoring rush in Nevada history, and they also gave up a 55-yard touchdown run. The Nevada offense had gone at that point. They had gone to more of a screen game. They were doing a lot of short, quick passes to the running backs, and they're really spreading the UB defense out laterally. And the problem was that because the defense was spread out so east and west, when the running back shot through the hole and got to the second level, there was nobody home, and then it was just a foot race the entire way. Thankfully, Okazie Olozie was in a dead sprint on the 91-yard rush, and he just barely caught James Butler before he reached the end zone. And that's really the type of pursuit that you want to see, and everyone was going after the ball on every single play, and that's really nice to see. And after those 2 big rushes, UB only allowed 142 yards the rest of the game, which averages out to about 47 yards a quarter, which is not bad at all, considering Nevada was running the ball more often than not. Another big positive was the pass defense was excellent yet again. They held Tyler Stewart to 90 yards passing. Boise Ross still looks like a bona fide star. I said before the season that he was going to play at an all-MAC level, and right now he is. He had another 4 pass breakups, which brings him up to 12 on the season, and he's now in sole possession of first in the nation in passes defended. And Marcus Baker, even true freshman Cam Lewis was in on a beautiful pass breakup in the later. He was in the third quarter. And he had a beautiful pass breakup, but it was nullified because of a Randy Onion personal foul. That was Onion, who's actually his second in the past 2 games, and those penalties really need to get cleaned up as well. In addition to Cam Lewis really making an impact on the defensive side of the ball, true freshman Duke Wong also had his first career tackle, which was also, I believe, it was the second tackle for loss in the game for UB. And really the linebackers, we've been singing their praises the past couple weeks, and they stepped up yet again. Brandon Berry, Okazie Olozie, and Nick Gilbo led the way in tackles with 13, 12, and 12 respectively. And Nick Gilbo had the lone sack for UB. And it was a well-timed blitz, and what hit him. It was really that hit and Brandon Berry's tackle for a loss, where he shot the gap and nailed the running back. Those are the type of high energy, plays that get the defense pumped up. And another thing I noticed really was the the pursuit and everyone going after the ball. So when one person gets the ball carrier, immediately there's another 3 or 4 guys right there, which is good. I like to see that. And see anything else to note? Really. So yeah, defense again, other than a couple of big rushing plays in the first quarter, they played a solid game. The offense didn't really do them any favors late in the game when they gave the offense the ball with, I believe it was 6 minutes left. Then the offense fumbled it away. Defense came out, forced a quick 3 and out, so offense could try again for a game-winning drive, and then there's the game-ending interception at the end. But for a defense that's filled with guys that mostly are inexperienced, haven't had a ton of collegiate playing time, everyone's doing fairly well, and I'm really happy with the way that the linebackers are playing. Especially Brandon Berry, he came basically out of nowhere, filling in for the injured Jarrett Franklin. The past couple of games, he showed up, and he showed up big time, showing that everyone that he's here to play and he's here to stay. So Crunchberry, as we've so lovingly called him here on Bull Run, he's had a tackle for loss the past 3 games, actually, excuse me. And he's delivered big hits on a game-by-game basis. He's always around the ball, and I really expect big things from him this season. He's done very well. And finally, moving on to special teams, not a whole lot to report there because they didn't really give up any big plays and make critical mistakes. One thing I did notice was that the punt blocking for Tyler Grassman was much improved from weeks 1 and 2, especially against Penn State. It seemed there was a guy in his face on nearly every punt, and he had plenty of time against Nevada. I don't recall seeing anyone getting into the backfield when he was punting. And as a result, he averaged 44 yards a punt with a long of 57 yards. And he also had a 55-yarder, which if he can punt like that on a consistent basis, I think he could see time in the NFL. Adam Mitchison also got back on track. Was 2 for 2 on field goals, one from 43 and another from 33 yards. So getting back on the home turf, not being in a hostile environment, probably did him some good. I believe there was one long return. I think it was about 36 yards. There was another long return, but that was called back because of a block in the back on Nevada. So the kick coverage teams are coming along, but the big takeaway is that they didn't give up any critical mistakes, and they went out and they did their jobs. So I think that's about it. Kind of a little shaky first round, but as I get used to kind of trying to flesh all these thoughts out, it'll get better as the season goes along. So definitely comment down below. Tell me what you think. I'm also trying to look for a name for this series, so if you can think of something good, let me know. Put it in the comments, send me a tweet, whatever. So I'm John McQuinney from ubbullrun.com. This was my video recap of the UB football game against Nevada. Stay tuned to Bull Run for everything UB related, football, Olympic sports, anything UB related, we've got it. Go Bulls.